Welcome back to Crime Besties. We're here for episode 11 today. Hi, Emma.
Hi, Meg. I am so excited to be back, and we've got a bit of a special thing going on today because we've got ourselves some new equipment.
We are real podcasters now with our little boom and everything.
And we've got some special mics. We know our sound quality hasn't been great leading up to this, so we decided to make a bit of an investment and really, go all in. And here we are. So we really hope that you can notice the difference in all of this. And I guess this kind of leads me saying a very, very big thank you to my husband, Peter, for helping us sort it all out.
Yeah, our now official producer, Peter. Thank you very much, Peter. We really appreciate all the work that he has put in.
That we do.
Finding the equipment and rectifying all of the sound issues that we've been having. And it's been a task and a half.
It has been, but so I think we've got it sorted now finally. So
thank goodness he's so beefy.
Yeah. Yep. Just ask him. Anyway, thank you very much, Peter. We really, really appreciate it.
Does that count that he's now appeared on the podcast?
Yeah, you know what? Let's call it. Yeah. I mean, he's desperate to be on.
I thought our kids had desperations to be on our podcast. Well, here we go. Yeah. Peter's, well and truly.
well, welcome, Peter, officially to the TCB family.
Oh, he loves it.
He does. Anything where he can
look at,
anything where he can look at tech and buy things, he's more than happy to jump on board. So, yep.
Yeah, we're just helping him out, really, at the end of the day.
Totally.
So thanks to us.
Yeah, you're welcome, Peter. You're welcome. What have you been up to this week?
Yeah, not much. Just it's been busy. Yes, and I can't even think what I've been doing this week. I've been that busy. I think my brain has fallen out. To be really honest,
I've been like super duper getting into America's Sweethearts, the documentary on Netflix about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
I binged that bad over like the school holidays. It's an easy watch. It's
a very easy
watch, but not in some ways too. It's pretty.
It's intense. It's intense. I just tried to do a high kick before we started recording. I couldn't get it about halfway.
Pull a muscle and all three.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh God, I'm not going to be able to walk for a week. But we were talking about how they do these like jump splits. Jeez, and they all like they fuck up their hips and they can't like it's not a you're not there's no longevity in being a cheerleader at that level, is there?
Cannot be. I mean, I know they've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
Who was the crazy ass bitch who decided for them to do that?
It was like back in the 70s or something. Insane. Yep. Absolutely insane. They're incredible athletes, so they're so fit. And some of the wording around the way they talk about it, though, on the documentary, it's really kind of problematic. Like they talk about the girls who are like too skinny. They say, they're not fueling their bodies well enough. Or if they're like, maybe slightly, they might have put on some weight or something.
Slightly.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, lovely. Yeah, they talk about them over fueling themselves. I'm like, oh my God. So it's pretty toxic. Watch it if you're filling up for a light watch that you don't want to then delve too much deeper into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you did, didn't you?
I just couldn't help myself. And then I listened, there's actually a podcast about them as well.
Oh, seriously? I didn't know that.
And I think the podcast is actually also called America's Sweethearts. And the journalist who created the podcast did it during COVID. Oh, yep. And so she was interviewing, I guess the cheerleaders all had heaps of time.
Yeah.
And she was interviewing them for the podcast and, there's some deep-seated issues within that organisation.
All those women have been exploited.
Totally. Yeah. They get paid like $15,000 a season or something. Actually now I think it's like $40,000, but even still, the amount of work they put into it, it means their hourly rate isn't even minimum wage.
Well, I mean, a lot of them work like full-time jobs and then go there in the evening to train, working themselves to the bone and then the physical, like what it takes out of your body.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be really honest. They are putting their bodies through equal amounts of what the players of the game of, what's it called, gridiron in America, is that right? Sorry, I'm not up with
American football.
They're putting their bodies through the same amount as the males in this scenario, and the males are being paid a hell of a lot more than 40 grand a year.
Yeah, and even the mascot gets paid 60 grand a year.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Oh, no.
Oh, look, we could talk about this for hours, but yeah.
Okay, another episode?
Yeah, maybe another episode. But anyway, what are we talking about today?
Sorry, like, that's criminal. I know it is. I can't get over that. 60 grand a year and they're getting paid 40. No,
Yeah.
sorry. Not, I dare say it's a man in that
It is
suit.
a man, yep.
Sorry. I can't get past it. What have you done to me?
Meg's not going to be able to record the rest of the episode,
No,
I don't
I'm
think,
now
after that
fixed on
revelation. Yeah. Don't get into it anymore then. If that's angered you, there's
really
way more. So
God. Right. Okay. Yep. Let's move on.
Yeah, moving on to today's actual crime or
Yes.
recognised crime. We are talking today about The Family, which is a cult that was created by Anne Hamilton-Byrne. I think let's just put a little disclaimer in here as well that we will be discussing child abuse today. So if that's too heavy for you, too much for you, probably skip this one and go to another episode. So Anne Hamilton-Byrne, what an interesting character.
Oh, yeah.
What an interesting woman.
Yep.
She believed she was the reincarnation of Christ in female form. She was actually born Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards on the 30th of December in 1921. Thinking about that era, I mean, 1921, that was a very, 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 very long time ago. In terms of her life experience and what has happened and changed over her life, there's a giant breadth and scope there.
Yeah.
But in amongst all of that change and all of that innovation and everything that was going on, she decided to create The Family. It was also known as the Great White Brotherhood of Initiates and Masters. That's an interesting one.
Oh, yeah.
And it all happened in and around Victoria, Australia.
Very close to us.
One of the compounds was in Alinda in Victoria, which is in the Dandenong Ranges. And that's only like, 10 or 15 Ks up the road from us.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah.
We go up there quite regularly, to be honest.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, God, what am I trying to say? What do they call that? Scones and tea, like when you go for, what's that called?
Like Devonshire tea.
Devonshire tea. That's what I was trying to say.
At Miss Marple's.
Miss Marple's. Yeah. That's up that way. Yeah.
That's lots of fun.
Sassafras, Fenny Creek, Alinda, all that area, and which is where they basically operated out. It was their HQ.
Yep.
And then from there was another compound out at Eildon, which again is only like an hour's drive from here, and a place where many families I've certainly been there many times, but many families go out there and from this area go boating and out in the lake at Lake Eildon. But they had a compound out there where they ran a major part of their cult.
Yeah.
Not that they called it a cult, but it was a cult.
Totally a cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that's in dispute, is it? I know they didn't call it a cult, but
No.
It is.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Those people in the cult might not call it a cult. Everyone outside of the cult calls it a cult.
I think that's pretty standard of cult. So Anne was born in Sale. She was the eldest of 7 children, and her father's name was Rolf Edwards. He was born in Melbourne, and he met Anne's mother. Anne's mother was born in London and came over. I think she was a young teenager when she arrived in Australia. Her name was Florence Hoyle. It turned out Florence was a paranoid schizophrenic. She suffered from hallucinations, delusions, and she heard voices.
She believed she was clairvoyant.
She did.
Yeah.
After an incident where she set fire to her own hair in the street, she was committed to a mental hospital for the final 27 years of her life.
Yeah.
This happened, so she was committed in 1941. She died committed, and there's not much more known about her aside from the fact that she was institutionalized and there was not really any hope of her being able to assimilate back into
especially
society.
back in those days. I mean, there was no treatment or sort of they were just crazy and put in asylums
put in a mental hospital and as they were called back then. And she went to several, like she was moved around the state. So in terms of Anne, around that time, I think Anne was she 18 when that happened?
I think, roughly about that age because I know so she was an adult, I guess, when she was finally diagnosed as schizophrenic and put into the mental institution. Yeah.
But she'd actually spent some time in an orphanage as well during her upbringing, because her father, so Anne being the eldest of these 7 children, her father would actually take these periods of absence and go off and do God only knows what. I mean, I think he was in the army, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't know about him. I'm not sure. I just know that he would, disappear.
Yeah, he'd be sort of in and out of the family's life. Anne described him as a spiritualist, which I don't really know what the definition of a spiritualist is, aside from is that just a spiritual person or is that a profession?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, what particular spirit? Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so he was not all that present. I think if you think about the time frame, maybe that makes a little bit of sense in that back then men weren't really the ones to bring up families. It sounds horrible when you think about it in the 2024 context, but I think the expectations of men were far different to what we now expect of dads and men in society.
Totally, yeah.
So Evelyn, a lot of her time growing up in orphanages. She attended Sunshine Primary School. So that's, again, it's just over the other side of the city. So it's not that far away, really, and sort of moved into our neck of the woods, later on in her life. There's not a lot known about her childhood, really, aside from the fact that her dad was in and out of her life. Her mum was not necessarily capable of looking after the children, hence the stints they were spent in an orphanage. There's not a huge amount of information really about her upbringing. We can infer that being that she was in the situation that she was, that things were, not great for her. There was certainly no stability there for her. It must have been an awful way to be brought up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's got to have had impact on her. But unfortunately, I guess that's where my empathy for her stops.
Same.
Yeah. I mean,
there comes a time where you're an adult and you can make decisions, right? There are plenty of people who've been in orphanages who haven't, perpetrated the things she has.
Crime. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, she's it's got to have impacted her into her adulthood as the person that she was going to become. But there's next level, and she's got to, there's got to be a level of responsibility for that. You've got to know this was not okay.
That's it. So Anne married her first husband named Lionel Harris in 1941. I've actually just made note that she was aged 20 then, so that was the same year that her mum was first committed. Mm-hmm. They met working on a fruit farm in Sydney. He was in the army at the time, was he, when they met? Or
he was in the army, and then it was was he the one that disappeared when he was? Yes.
Yeah.
So he was in the army, and I think it would have been around about, obviously, 1940s. It would have been during the war,
World War II.
I'm pretty sure he served in the war.
He did,
but then he went AWOL from there and came home to Anne.
Yeah.
And so he did end up going back into the armed forces, but then he was discharged honourably. But he did do some odd stuff and leave to come back to Anne. I read all that and listened to stuff about that and thinking, is this the start of her manipulation over someone?
That is exactly what I thought as well, because so for somebody, I mean, I guess during a world war, there was obviously conscription. So whether he wanted to be in the army or not, I don't know. I haven't looked into whether or not
it was a choice of his to be there or not.
Yeah, that's it. But it was 8 months that he went AWOL for.
Yeah.
To live with Anne and to spend this time with her. I don't know. It's just a really curious thing to me.
Yeah, and I wondered, because abandonment would be an issue for her, I guess, in terms of her father abandoned them. Her mother was really not available to her.
Yeah.
Moving from foster home, that sort of thing or orphanages. I guess it would have been an issue for her, having people abandon her, and him going off to war could have been bit of a trigger for her. And
yeah. Well, they went on to have a daughter.
Yeah.
One biological daughter. Her name was Judith. She then changed her name later on in life to Natasha. There is not a lot of information about her, and quite rightly so. She's a much older woman.
I don't know how much she partaked in the...
Well, she lived in the compound.
She did.
Eventually.
Yeah, and she also, as Anne changed her name later in life, her surnames, not just through marriage, but by choice. And her daughter did the same. So she was known eventually as Natasha Hamilton-Byrne, which I find that very interesting, why she would lose her father's surname when, you know, her father passed away. There was nothing ill toward of her father. Why would you then not want his surname? I don't know. That's interesting.
Further manipulation, or I guess if you've grown up with a mother like Anne, and we'll get to why we think this way really soon, but if you've grown up with a mother like that, you probably almost would take the path of least resistance and be like, yeah, you know what? I'll take your surname if that's going to make life easier for me.
But from what I can find out, she ended up moving over to the UK and has resided there since. So she's been very removed from Australia and the cult in that sense, physically being here at all. So, interesting. I mean, she was well and truly a young adult even when the cult formed. So this was much later in her life. She wasn't a young child being manipulated into a cult.
No.
She was an adult enough to make her own decisions.
That's right.
And I think fairly soon after everything sort of started really getting quite into it, she did leave the country. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Look, if she's still alive today, and I don't know whether she is or not, she'd be in her probably early 80s.
Whoa, that blows my mind.
It doesn't.
Because, I mean, I was just looking at because Anne only died fairly recently.
Yeah.
In 2019, sorry.
And she was aged 97 when she passed.
Yeah, she was 97.
Yeah.
Oh, God, some people live a long time, don't they? And some
And
maybe
it's always,
don't deserve to.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I guess Anne and Lionel wanted to expand their family, and in the very early 1950s, they were in the process of adopting a baby boy from Barnardo's. They were I think Lionel was actually on his way to sign adoption papers when he was involved in a fatal car accident. So obviously it killed him. This was in Bathurst on the 8th of January in 1955. So given Lionel had died, Anne was no longer eligible to
adopt the
baby.
Yeah. So she would have been 35-ish at that stage. So I guess in that day and age, would have been older for her to have carried a baby herself. But I don't think there was anything actually stopping her biologically to have any more children at that point or prior. Like she obviously carried one.
Yeah, not that I've read. No. I know she was incredibly vain and appearance meant a lot to her. I don't know whether that had any impact on whether or not she wanted to carry more children. I'm not sure.
Interestingly. Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, and I wonder whether her need to adopt, thinking to adopt, fairly altruistic reasoning in that, because she had spent time in orphanages and wanted to give other children opportunities to have loving homes. I mean, I hope that would be her motivation to do that. But then when we look at what happened later on...
Yeah. I just sort of question, do you think the death of Lionel is when she sort of turned to religion a little bit?
Well, she turned to yoga, I think, first.
Okay.
Which I know... that definitely at his death, it was given some advice to her by someone was saying, hey, there's this new age thing to have a go out here in Australia because it's very new here of yoga. And so she went and started doing yoga. And there's obviously a very spiritual aspect to yoga. And that really connected with her in some way.
Yeah, I've actually got written in my notes that in an interview she stated that the yoga brought her community, spirituality and a physical peace, whatever that means. In 1960 she trained as a tantric yoga instructor and women started to really look up to her like a guru. She sort of started giving relationship advice and these women really sort of followed whatever she said, to the nth degree. There were women leaving their husbands on her advice, and
I don't think any yoga instructor is supposed to give relationship advice.
Well, also mind your own business, Anne. Jeez, man.
On that similar topic, though, have you ever seen that? There's a documentary on it as well of the guy who brought hot yoga. What's that called? The really have you done that?
Bikram yoga.
Bikram. That's right. It's his name. He was problematic. Holy crap.
Yeah, I have watched a documentary about him. I just, any of those super, know.
Have you done Bikram yoga?
I have. I actually really enjoy it.
See, I couldn't do it because I've got this heart condition and I was in there going, why am I thinking I'm going to die? Oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to do this stuff because I've got a heart condition.
My God, seriously.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I did the whole class. I didn't like it, but yeah, my heart was at about 200 beats per minute and I'm like, Why am I feeling like this?
What's going on? Yeah, I did it before I had kids. I've never done it again since, but I loved it when I used to do it.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah.
I never, though, was manipulated into anything further than attending a Bikram yoga class. That was a hard no.
It would be up for it.
It was bad and oh God, can you imagine? It was bad enough, like the blokes in those Bikram yoga sessions sometimes would wear like Speedos.
The sweat patch. My mum will kill me.
Go. Sorry,
I've been to a few yoga sessions, over the years, and my mum sometimes come with me in that, and it's like, you see someone fucked.
Always.
Sure, it wasn't you, mum.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patty.
Hey, she's made it onto the podcast now, so welcome, Pat. So yeah, she's sort of starting already at this point, Anne, not Pat.
Yeah,
is starting to really draw people into her inner sanctum and into her circle, and really starting to manipulate people into really believing she was this guru, this somebody to look up to.
Yeah.
The other thing is, around this time, she was telling people that she was a physiotherapist and a nurse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and none of that was ever true. But she was telling them so that she could give them medical advice and advice on injuries, and, she'd help them. I'm putting air quotes here, but she would help them cure their injuries.
Yeah, well, because that's something what she eventually started doing too was using people who were doctors and nurses who would inject people with certain things or find certain, almost convince people of injuries that they had or illnesses that they had in certain ways. And then she'd get them to stop doing whatever it was that was giving that illness or injury. And then tell them that she had cured them.
She was a miracle worker.
Yeah. And obviously that's what she was, obviously Jesus.
Yeah. And I guess because of all of these things, her status within these circles was increasing. So people were like, oh my God, she's a miracle worker. She cured my this. She helped me with this. And she was really starting to brainwash her followers. And I guess at this point in time, it was small fries. But then she met a man by the name of Dr. Rainer Johnson.
Well, how she met him is so interesting.
Go, get into that.
Yeah. Well, so she... I don't know what came first in terms of did she spot Rainer first and go, I need to know him, which I strongly feel it was that way, or did she meet a particular man who opened her eyes up to there was this person named Rainer? But basically she wanted to know Rainer Johnson.
Yeah.
And who he was a physicist.
Yes.
Who had only just arrived in Australia from the UK. And been employed at the University of Melbourne.
Yeah, he was employed as the Master of Queen's College, which was quite a prestigious title and an honour.
Yep.
He was a theoretical physicist, as you said, and he was an academic author.
He was a theoretical physicist and was very heavily into that, but he was starting to shift into a different realm, really, of as a physicist, more spiritual, I guess. I would love to know how this day and age, you can jump on someone's website and find out about them. I mean, back in that day and age, how did she find out about this? And
I think she found out about him, or the way it came about is because I think she actually knew people who worked at Melbourne University.
She already had connections.
Yes, I think she already had connections through people. I mean, by this stage, she'd sort of started recruiting people from the judicial, legal, medical, educational sectors.
Yeah.
And
getting her tentacles out everywhere, wasn't she?
She really was.
But
with Rainer, the way she went about it was she actually started sleeping with his gardener.
Yeah.
And was getting the gardener to feed her information. She actually used that information to really hook Rainer in.
Oh, big time.
She knocked on his door one night and basically declared herself to him as clairvoyant. She said, I know you're going overseas to India soon and your wife is going to get very, very sick while you're over there.
Shock horror.
Who the fuck doesn't get sick when they go to a third world country? I mean...
Oh, what? You're going to get dysentery? What? Who?
I was going to say, apparently Rainer's wife actually got a really bad case of dysentery.
Really bad. So it's in Rainer's eyes, he's like, this woman, she predicted, she knew that I was going overseas. How would she have known that? I don't know. The gardener might have told her. And that his wife's going to get sick in a country that, everyone gets sick in if they go there when they live somewhere else. She didn't predict shit.
No.
But he was very, very sucked in.
Very much so. Yeah. They say that people who become a part of a cult are often really intelligent people.
I find that shocking.
Well, the psychology around it is that being so intelligent, they think there's no way that they would fall for being in a cult, so they're a lot more easily manipulated. I know it's kind of a little bit counterintuitive, isn't it? But like, the other thing is, do these people not have friends? Like, if you came to me and went, spiritual healer.
I just imagine me doing it.
Yeah, totally. I'd be like, Meg, slap some sense into you, please. Come on. Do these people have no one around them to go, reality check here?
Everyone knew you were going to India. Someone would have told her, or, and everyone gets sick when they go there. Surely.
Like, let's have a look at this a little bit critically.
Yeah.
And as a scientist, that's the way he should have been looking at things.
You would think so.
But he was obviously open to this. And, I mean, what does he get from it? Like, he's obviously getting something from it as well.
Well, yeah.
Was there a sexual element to their relationship?
Well, apparently he was happily married, but you get the sense that there was potentially more to Anne and his relationship.
I fully get that sense. I reckon, I mean, I've got no proof of this, but I just feel like there was a lot more because he was so into her.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Anne did end up marrying the gardener.
Yeah.
They were only married for a year. It was clearly a marriage of convenience in terms of the information she was getting and everything.
Access, yep.
It didn't last. But Raynor certainly stuck around for many, many years.
Yeah.
There was, as we say, there was no official evidence of them having a relationship, but Anne definitely was able to manipulate him and had a lot of power over him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe she had like a magical vagina. And he just couldn't help it. The cult went on for 60 years. If you're
still running today, really.
It is. I'm sort of closing it off at 1993 when, it sort of, and to... Oh, it wasn't even the end, but as you say, it's still going on to this day. But realistically, with Anne at the helm, it went on for 60 years, essentially unchecked. Like, it's a long, long time. Yeah. So that's 1963 to 1993. They'd recruited all of these nurses, these doctors, politicians. They had nurses. People from like Ansett, like the owners of Ansett Airlines in Australia. They had some really influential people within
lawyers that they have access to things to be able to do what they did, and manage to falsify documents. Yeah, but then these people were all wealthy, which meant that when Anne, being the leader of the cult, took portions of their wages, it was a fair bit of money. And so she ended up accruing about a wealth of about $50 million.
It was, in the end.
She had properties all over the world. Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Yeah,
when she was a cult, it sounds like good money.
Actually, maybe we should. Maybe that's not the worst idea ever. She was arrested at a property in like upstate New York, which they own, which
like a large property,
massive, and all beautiful properties. Like the property at Lake Eildon, if you do a bit of a Google,
was it 5 acres?
Yeah, and it's absolutely stunning. Like the property is absolutely stunning.
Well, the children certainly weren't living in luxury though.
No, they were not. They absolutely were not. So the property up in Eildon was called Uptop or Kai Lama. If you want to have a look at it, have a look into it and look at photos. Yeah, beautiful parts of the world that they owned homes in.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Ferny Creek, Linda, they're all very beautiful spots.
Very.
Yeah, but also secluded in some ways. Like they're not the easiest places to get to. They're dirt roads. They're very, very
foresty.
Yeah. Is she? Yeah. Beautiful places, but hard to get to in lots of ways.
So because she had access to doctors and whatever, she would get them to prescribe, or not even legally, but obtain LSD, and they would use the LSD to really onboard people and really get them to, drink the Kool-Aid essentially and think that Anne was Jesus reincarnate.
Yeah.
What they would do is they would inject people with LSD, which has more of an effect on the body. When they were coming towards the end of their trip, Anne would appear in a white cloak with a light behind her, and they'd get a bucket of dry ice so that there'd be like a bit of smoke coming up. And they would keep them in a dark room while they were going through these LSD trips. Mm-hmm. She would come into the room and float. And people would literally think they were seeing Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Embodied in Anne Hamilton-Byrne.
But this is the thing where I get a little bit like, that's not one person being able to, like, it's not one person operating all of that. Like, to have who's going out and buying the dry ice, who's getting the smoke, blow the smoke out, who's operating all of the machinery, right, in the background.
Yeah.
There's more than one person on board here for this to be a setup.
That's it. And why are they not recognizing that and going, oh, this is a bit fucked up. Like, if you could actually do this for real, why aren't you doing it for real?
Yeah.
Why are we having to drug people? But there's again, it's going back to that critical thinking. They're just going along with whatever she says, doing whatever she says. Things start to turn really problematic at this point because they start to acquire, kidnap, whatever. Steal children. And the way they go about doing this, the first child they stole was from a woman, a girl, actually. She was 16 years old at the time, named Sarah Moore. Her first pregnancy, she was...
Sorry, the little girl was Sarah.
Yes, sorry, girl was Sarah. Sorry, the mother
baby was
Sarah. Sorry, you're absolutely right.
The mother was 16.
Yes.
Yep.
She was an unwed mum. She'd been disowned by her family, so because she was pregnant and unwed. The father had fucked off, the father of the baby.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's on her own, giving birth. She's incredibly vulnerable. Anne had recruited doctors and nurses at this particular hospital. And once she delivered her baby girl named Sarah, they tranquilized her or sedated her and stole her baby.
Put a pillow over her head?
Yep.
And it was awful. They literally stole that baby off her.
And the mum felt like she had no recourse. She had nobody to go to. She was 16 years old. She's just given birth. The nurses and doctors have told her that they've taken the baby to a better place and... This will be the right thing for you. Yeah. And oh my God, I can't even imagine how traumatic that would be for that poor young girl.
No, awful.
So Sarah is, I guess, the first stolen child to join into the cult.
Yeah, and so she's got all of her doctors and nurses in the hospital doing that part of it and taking the baby physically. Mm-hmm. And then she's got, under her, she's got lawyers, etc., to then do the documentation to go with it.
Yep.
And make sure that then it's all looking like it's legal.
Yeah, none of it was actually legal, obviously.
No.
But she had documentation, falsified documentation for them. So Sarah didn't actually know that Anne wasn't her biological mum until she was a teenager. Can you imagine finding out that information as a teen? Like when you're already undergoing an identity crisis and, wanting to figure out who you are and how you fit into the world. Yeah. And she's now, having to also come to terms with the fact that the person she thought was her biological mum is not.
In some ways, I'd be stoked though to find out that Anne, the perpetrator of much abuse, wasn't my mother.
Yeah.
But at the same time, well, who the hell is, and what the hell happened to her, and why did she let me go? Why, the questions in your brain would just be rolling around.
Absolutely.
But Anne was so convincing. Well, not convincing really of this, but she, when a new baby would be, coming, she would dress and fake her pregnancy basically, and wear a fake belly, so that the children, all, very young and impressionable, would see Anne with her belly and everything and believe that there was a baby coming, and she was and another sibling was on the way, and the next thing a baby would appear, so she's had a baby. And in actual fact, they'd just stolen another one. So, yeah, there was two ways of them gaining the children, obviously. There was her stealing them from the hospitals from young unwed mothers very illegally and falsifying documents. But there was also people within the cult that she would convince to hand their children over to her. Mm-hmm. And then they were all raised as if they were Anne's children and that she had birthed them. She in one documentary, I think it was, or not a documentary, I mean just in a 60 Minutes interview, where she said that she had birthed 8 or 9 children. I'd lost count or something, I think she almost said, 8 or 9,
God.
Which is completely false. She had one biological child and she was not one of these ones that was up top. Yeah.
That blows my mind. Oh, yeah, I've just sort of lost count of how many biological children I've had because I stole so many as well.
So she ended up with, there was 14 children who were stolen, and she gave them all the same surname of Hamilton-Byrne.
Yep.
Another 14 of the children were given the surname Foster, and they were all children who had been given to her by cult members. So that meant that there were children that were running around in this up top and around in Alinda whose parents, genuine biological parents, were coming in and out of the place, you know, being involved in this cult, but were not recognising that child as their child because that child was now Anne's child.
Oh, it blows my mind.
I can't even imagine.
I can't. But okay, to give your child up for adoption is one thing, okay, for whatever reason that may be.
Yep.
But to then actually be present in that child, and these are not formal adoptions by any means, were they?
No.
So to then be present in that child's life day to day, because a lot of these mums were actually what the cult would call aunties, and they would work in shifts around the clock to look after these children, like however many of them there were in the end.
28.
Was it 28?
Yeah.
And so the children thought that these women were their aunties, and some of them, it was actually their biological mum.
Yeah.
And the aunties would actually perpetrate the violence on the children as directed by Anne, and they would perpetrate that on their own children.
Yeah. So leading into that of like the abuse on the children.
Yeah.
The reason for the abuse and things was that they needed to keep these children secluded, that they were special, because under Anne's belief of what was going to happen was that the world was going to end and these children were going to be who were going to repopulate the earth. So the idea was that there was going to be some sort of natural disaster, World War III.
Armageddon.
Yeah, Armageddon was going to come, wipe out the entire planet of human life other than these 28 children who were then to repopulate the earth.
Yep.
So she educated these children, highly educated them. They were all very intelligent. However, they were narrowly taught in terms of what the world was. They were informed that police and other people outside of their compound were evil and that they were basically these special human beings who needed to be protected from the outside world. But they were also then really kept in line of and they had to behave a certain way. And so obviously for them to they didn't want them looking outside of the cult. So they would punish them at any sign of them stepping out of line. But that boundary that would be set in terms of what was stepping out of line would be moved all the time. So these kids would be forever trying to keep themselves from getting punished because the punishment was horrific, but it was always changing. So I remember there was a story where a teacher had come in to run school for the day, leaving the building, had got to his car and realised, oh, where have my paintbrushes gone? I can't find them. So the aunties have bailed all the kids up to say, right, where are the paintbrushes? Where are the paintbrushes? They didn't know where they were. So they started getting out buckets of water. And this was not the only occasion this happened on. This was a regular form of torture that they used. Bucket of water, and they would dunk the kid's head in the bucket for 15, 20 seconds, pull the kid's head out. Where are the paintbrushes? I don't know. I haven't touched them. Head back in the bucket, 20 more seconds, pull their head out, say it, and again. And this went on for hours. It turned out the teacher had dropped the paintbrushes on the way to his car. So these kids legitimately didn't do anything. No kid should be put through that torture regardless of that. But they would just be relentlessly tortured in these moments like this. It was just horrific.
It was. The children were like being bred or whatever to be a white master race to save the world. She dyed their hair blonde, a lot of them, so that they'd look the same. They were modelled on the Von Trapp family. They wanted them to be perfect, in perfect matching clothes. They weren't allowed to, take a step out of line, as you said, otherwise they would be really severely punished.
They would even record propaganda videos. And so basically from the outside world, people would see these videos and think that, oh, it's so fabulous. That's what these children are just lovely and they're so smart. And she would literally have them marching around and parading as if they were, the Von Trapps. Yeah. It was quite revolting. Yeah. Because the cult did grow to a number of 500 members in 1978.
Oh, that blows my mind.
It's incredible. And they did spread across the world a little bit too. There were a few dotted around outside of Australia that were also members. So, 500 members sending in their money and
Yeah, I mean, that's how she amassed a $50 million fortune over the 60 years, I guess.
Crazy.
Anne's third husband he actually had a family and a wife when he met Anne.
She convinced him to leave her.
Yep. And then he became an equal abuser in the whole situation. I wonder what his temperament and personality was like before meeting her.
Yeah, got to wonder. I mean, because she convinced a lot of these men in the cult that they were reincarnations of the apostles. So, you know, like that Raina was John the Baptist.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if Bill had been named an apostle or...
I'm not sure, actually.
But yeah, she certainly had her core men in the group, and this is the thing, she had a lot of manipulation over men.
Yeah, I mean, she was, I guess, by all standards, very beautiful. I think I mentioned before that she was very vain, and she certainly had lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of cosmetic surgeries and procedures to maintain that perceived beauty.
It didn't last long.
No, because when she was older, there's an interview that Karl Stefanovic does with her. I think that was the 60 Minutes interview, was it?
Yeah.
And she looks shocking.
There's nothing about her in that video that you look at and go, oh, she's very beautiful.
No, she's plastic.
Earlier in days where there's photos of her, you kind of go...
Yeah, she was beautiful.
She was beautiful. I think she ruined herself with all these plastic surgeries. If she'd let herself age gracefully, she probably could have been quite beautiful well into her later years. But yeah, that video, she looks full creep.
She does look like a full creeper.
Yeah.
I mean, she is
the voice creeper. And everything is...
Yeah. And I hate the way in that interview that she never answers a question. So Karl will ask her a direct question and she skirts her. She never answers I actually got so frustrated with it, I couldn't end up watching the end of it.
And is it Bill in the background? He jumps in every now and then.
Yeah, and he's like, but this happened. But, oh, no, don't forget. And don't ask this. And you can't. Oh, he's...
Yeah.
I mean, he's, again, it's her magical vagina again. The cult members were all vegetarians. She also prided herself on making sure that the children were very well nourished, in that they weren't allowed to eat anything that may potentially tarnish their perfect little bodies.
But there's another reason for that too, yeah. I mean, lack of protein impacts the brain and therefore your ability to make decisions and, you know, really understand what's being done and said around you.
That with a lack of carbohydrates as well. They didn't have much, you know, didn't have much sustenance. She justified it by saying, oh, they live such a healthy life. But literally all they were living off was vegetables, fruit, and a few little legumes. And it was
rationed.
Absolutely.
Like,
the kids were starving.
Yeah.
There was a story of one of the children she was sort of a little bit of a rebel in the group, but she would leave and go to other houses around the compound.
So it was Sarah, the eldest one.
That was Sarah, was it?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, because you got to, I mean, I from a baby, taking a baby, you can mold and manipulate a baby. They do grow up and they do grow their own brains. And as much as like she can control them as much as possible when they're younger, I think Sarah got to sort of that age of 15, 16 and was like, this is not right. You know, and she did venture off and she was stealing from the neighbours to get food. Yeah. So she was the one who eventually... She befriended some girls in the local area when she was venturing out. And obviously there was a lot of talk in amongst the locals.
Oh, they'd have to have known something weird was going on there.
What on earth is this place and what's going on?
Yeah.
And they all realised that there was children there and all that sort of thing. I mean, they were putting these propaganda. Oh my God, I can't say that word today. Propaganda videos out. So they weren't like they were hidden in that sense. We are here, but, you know, for valid reasons is what they sort of put out there.
Yeah.
But the locals were all talk of, you know, this is a bit weird and what's going on out here. And the cops would go out there and check things and that on the odd occasion.
Yeah. The other thing that I find interesting, and I'm hoping you can speak a little bit more to this as well, being that you're a teacher, but Kai Lama in 1984, so up top, was registered as a school. Mm-hmm. They would be subject to inspections and accreditation, surely. I mean, as part of that process.
Yeah.
Nothing was picked up? Like, nothing was like, why? How?
Yeah, so the guy, there was a guy that went out from the education department and checked on the school to see how it was all operating, to make sure it was ticking all the boxes of what they require.
Yep.
He thought the place was fantastic. He gave it all the ticks. Actually went back to the education department, I believe, and went, we should be modelling more schools on this. It's amazing.
He in the cult?
Possibly was, because they did, you know, have tentacles out into the education department. There were certainly teachers that were cult members, and obviously came out to the compound there and taught the children.
Yep.
There was many teachers involved, But I wouldn't, I don't know whether this specific person was part of the cult, but he went out there and saw very well behaved children, which they all love. We all got to fit into a box.
I was going to say, that's got to
raise a red flag.
flag.
Well, these days. Maybe not back then.
Yeah, fair call.
I mean, the kids were incredibly intelligent. So I guess in terms of the education that was happening there, if you looked at it in terms of meeting the curriculum, they were.
They were probably exceeding what
they
was
were well
expected.
and truly exceeding what that was expected. So in that aspect, I think he was like, yeah, this is great. The fact that they all had dyed blonde hair, they were all in the same clothing and all had the same surname, didn't set off any alarm bells.
That's what I find bizarre.
But no, didn't. So they got the tick of approval from the education department for that.
Yep.
There's a few other issues in terms of the education department as well of how things got involved there, because there was also the issue where one particular school in Melbourne that needed some work done, and they put the tender out. Particular cult members won the tender, and there was and if he was looked into very deeply in terms of whether there was some conflict of interest in terms of how they got the tender, and did the works. So it was like a $2 million job.
Right.
I mean, and back in the day, in this time,
oh wow,
it was a big job. So there was a lot of money then they were making out of it, and it was cult members that were all handing jobs off to each other. So
right, okay, yeah. So it's a lot goes a lot deeper.
Yeah,
potentially.
Absolutely.
I just find that really interesting. That you think like a government organisation like the Department of Education, they'd have a bit of an idea, like they'd walk into that and go, something just seems a bit awry here. But no, anyway, it is what it is. Nothing got picked up at the time, and they were allowed to continue operating as a
high quality school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question marks, I would have thought. But anyway.
Question marks.
Yes.
Now, I guess we can kind of come now to when when Anne kind of got discovered. And things kind of started coming to an end.
Yeah. So I guess that began with Sarah.
Yeah.
And her venturing out and, as we said, stealing from local homes. I guess that sort of alerted the locals, but she ended up, because of her stealing, Anne ended up banishing her from the cult. So she was left with nowhere to go. So she went to these locals that she knew, and they took her in. And then another girl, Leanne, from the group also went looking for Sarah then, because she was like, well, hang on a second, if she can get out, maybe I can get out. She went hunting for Sarah. She found her. So these two girls ended up at this person's house in the local area, telling the parents of these friends that they had met what went on in the cult. And thankfully the parents went, well, we're going to go to the police.
Yeah.
So they went off to the police, and the police investigated it. And they did get the kids out. So in 1987, they did a massive raid.
1997.
Was it 90? No, 87.
Yeah. No, it was Friday the 14th of August in 1997.
1987.
Was it? Odd.
Definitely 87.
Okay, 87, yep.
Because I remember, I'm old and I remember it. 1987. So, 1987, they raided the Kailama and, got these children out, who then were all at this time explained to them that Anne isn't your mother. And some of them then had to find who their parents were, and some of them found that, they were cult members were their parents, and yet when they were not told, and they knew then who their parent was. Other children, though, had to then go hunting to try and find who their parent could be, and finding the records not being there that could really help them out to find who their parents were.
Or finding that the records that they could find were actually falsified, and they didn't have real information on them. So Lexter Mann was the Victoria police detective who sort of ended up being the lead investigator on this case. He calls Anne the most evil person I've ever come across. Anne had obviously caught wind that things were starting to happen, and she'd actually fled overseas to England first, and then made her way across to the US.
I find her escape interesting in that sense. She went overseas, like that. Basically, any cult leader, like she's predicting something that's going to occur in the future, And when the future comes and it doesn't happen, so she predicted that roughly mid-80s the world was going to end. And when the mid-80s came and went and there was no end of the world, she was, I guess, in a position of, well, how else do I keep this going and how do I continue this false information?
Yeah.
That she's gone, I'm out kind of thing, which she ran the cult still from overseas, but very much less impactful, I guess, on the day-to-day, so that it wasn't questioned. She couldn't be questioned by them being, well, hang on a second, like,
hold
on,
about when's Armageddon coming? Sorry, what day and time did you say?
Yeah, but they did just still continue following her orders from overseas while she was
giving her their money and
Yeah.
It's absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
So in 1993, she was arrested when she was in the US. She was there with Bill in one of their properties, as we were saying before, in upstate New York. The property is stunning, like absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love the way that she was caught, though, or the way that they arrested her.
Yes.
The FBI agent, I can't remember the name of the agent, but she's a kick-ass woman.
Yeah.
He went into the back of a mail delivery truck and was like a bit incognito. So she wasn't in any FBI getup. She was just in her civvies. And she delivered the mail to Anne's letterbox, and she basically just waited for Anne to come out to collect the mail and arrested her right there. So
love that.
Anne had absolutely no idea what was coming. She had no makeup on. She was not, I think she was even in her pajamas when she was arrested. Love that, because again, being someone so vain, I'm sure she wouldn't have liked to have been seen without her makeup. Bill was also arrested at the same time, and they were popped into jail. And in the jail cell next to Bill, somebody got really brutally beaten up by the cops. So
I believe
it was by the police officers. Like, so, it was pretty, dicey. And so Bill basically said to Anne, we've got to take this plea deal that the Aussies are offering us to be extradited back to Australia to face the crimes that they'd perpetrated.
Yeah.
And so, they're like, shit, I'm out of here. So they jump on a plane back to Melbourne.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the worst that came of it for them was a $5,000 fine for forging documentation. They were never, and still to this day have never, been tried or convicted of any of the stealing or kidnapping of the children of the cult, any acts of violence or any illegal activities that the cult participated in. Nobody has been held accountable for that.
And part of that was due to the fact they didn't want to put the children through the trauma of sitting through trial and giving evidence. But surely that means there's got to be a way in which we can run our court systems that allows victims to not be re-traumatised, but at the same time give evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big, big discussion that would need to happen, because you're absolutely right. In these circumstances, why is it that the victims have to, as you say, re-traumatise themselves in order to be able to get the justice that they absolutely deserve? I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a better way of doing it. But at the minute, our system is imperfect.
Yeah.
It's the best that we've got at the minute, and just sort of the way it ended up. So the eldest, Sarah, this is sort of now a little bit more about, the kids and where they are now.
Yeah.
Sarah Moore, who was formerly Sarah Hamilton-Byrne, she went to medical school and became a doctor. And I think that just shows just how incredibly intelligent she was, and the drive that she would have to put herself through medical school. And really, that's what an amazing achievement for her. But she was a very tortured young woman. She was self-prescribing fentanyl, and she made several attempts on her life in her 20s.
I'm not sure if we mentioned it, but the use of the LSD wasn't just limited to adults in the cult. We should say it was used on the children too, which I can't even imagine then the impact of that.
Yeah, and the prolonged use over time, in growing bodies, who knows. Yeah. Sarah actually died in her early 40s of heart issues related to her drug past.
Yeah.
And as you said, the LSD absolutely would have played into that, and as well as the abuse.
She lost a limb too,
fentanyl.
Didn't she?
Yeah, that was as a result of one of the attempts on her life.
That's right. Yeah.
The other person in this case who I just have a really soft spot for. There's a lot, he's done a lot of media. There's a lot of radio interviews with him. He has his own website called Rescue the Family, and you can see a lot of his media appearances on there, and you can watch them, listen to them on there. I actually came across him in an episode of Insight on SBS in Australia, and it's an interview sort of style where they have a different case each week, and he was on it talking about the fact that he'd been involved in a cult, and he is such a gentle and lovely man. He's got a family of his own now, and he's just an incredible person. And he found out that one of the aunties was his mum. In the process of sort of everything sort of unraveling. He had a really difficult time coming to terms with all of this, and he speaks very, very openly about that. And he also talks about how the effect physically on children who've been involved in these traumatic situations, like he was saying, a depletion in growth hormone over his life. He was always very little. And then once he was, put into a foster family where he was nourished and he was able to experience life and everything that had to offer, he actually had this like really big growth spurt, and he really flourished, and he really has made a wonderful life for himself. You just can't imagine what all of these children went through.
Oh, that's it. I mean, unfortunately, there's some really sad stories around a number of the children that, that grew up and from the impact of what happened there, and others have made great lives for themselves, like not as many as you'd like to. I think, unfortunately, it's quite sad because there's also the role and effect of those kids who, there was the 28 core children that were at the cult, but also that were either stolen or, handed over to them. But there's also the outliers of just members of the cult. There's families that were members of the cult and who had children who were raised in particular ways with a very weird belief growing up too. So there was many young people impacted who didn't have a choice about being involved in all of this. And as we said, the cult is still running today. I believe that the average age of the member of the cult is quite, it's
over 80, I think, literally the average age. So that means they've had no new recruits in forever.
Which is great news because it will die out eventually, I assume then.
Yeah.
But they're still active. And up until 2019 with Anne she was living in an aged home care, aged care facility not far from us at all, very much around the corner.
Yeah.
And cult members would come and do her hair, and they would take her laundry and go and wash it and bring it back. So they're very much still bowing down to her as if she's Jesus Christ. Which, come on, people, Armageddon never happened.
If you've been indoctrinated into this and you've just lived your entire life like that, and you're that old, you'd probably just be like, I'll just keep going.
Keep this pretense up. Yeah.
I don't know. So it's an interesting one. But Anne died aged 97.
Yeah. Well, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So a brutal and bizarre cult it was.
Absolutely.
Or was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got looking into this, though, in terms of the cult, and I sort of went down a bit of a rabbit hole because I'm intrigued by cults, always have been. I just find it fascinating, as we were saying earlier, about why people join these cults and what is so attractive to it, what manipulates them, how do they so easily become manipulated to these things. And I ended up finding some stuff out about, there is a theory out there that this could have been an offshoot of something that was created in America with the CIA.
Go on.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever heard of MK Ultra.
Yes.
Yeah. So MK Ultra was it was a program developed by the CIA about looking into mind control, and it was developed in around about 1953, which is roughly when this all started with Anne. And so it was illegal human experiments to identify drugs that could be used during interrogations to weaken individuals force them to confess, basically.
Right.
So they were doing all these really illegal studies on people and finding ways. What they would do would be they would be under the guise of like research. They would infiltrate organizations such as universities, hospitals. So it kind of connects up with maybe someone like Raina.
Were they using LSD?
They were using LSD. That was their key drug that they were using in the program. Yeah. So they used lots of different variations on brainwashing and psychological torture.
Okay.
But it all involved using LSD.
Wowzers.
So when you look at it from the perspective, maybe like the CIA wanting to infiltrate various places to test out their theory, it's possible that they were getting people on board like a Rainer to kind of go, well, how can we get more clients? How can we, access more people? And it was completely illegal and unethical.
That could explain or give some more weight behind why Rainer fell for things, fell for Anne hook, line, and sinker.
Maybe he was researching.
Yeah.
Like...
Maybe, yeah,
and feeding research
his
back
hook.
to the CIA around.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was reading more and more about it, I was like, well, maybe there's something to this.
Maybe. I guess we'll never know, though, will we?
No, absolutely not. But also another little connection there to that and to another case that we will most definitely look at down the track. It has been suggested, and well, not even just suggested, but there's definite evidence of a particular Charles Manson being involved in CIA research.
Yes.
He's actually linked to 4 different research projects with the CIA, rumoured to be with 4. Okay. 2 have been proven. There are documents linking him to CIA research. And weirdly enough, his cult was called The Family.
The Family.
So there's possibility that he was also doing similar sorts of things within his cult, using drugs to affect people in different ways. So is this actually a branch off of the CIA MK Ultra project?
Oh, that is so interesting. Mm. Oh, I love a good conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the conspiracy theory, to be honest with you. But
there's lots of documentation of this MK Ultra in action. It's not it was shut down in like 1973-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, 1973 it was shut down. However, there were offshoots from that, so it kept running under different names, completely illegally what they were doing. It was so unethical. And so when they did shut it down in 1973, the head of the CIA actually said, burn everything. And so they got rid of a lot of the documentation. But there are documents that have been found that track this MK Ultra. And I have got some screenshots of some documents that are fully mind-blowing of like the unethical nature of this project. They knew what they were doing was completely illegal and unethical.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe... when we do our Charles Manson case, we can get into that even more so.
Oh, totally.
If there's proven links there.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah. Bring it on. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the Anne Hamilton-Byrne saga. My God, it's a crazy one. But thank you to everybody who's joined us all the way through to the end. Would really love it if everyone can give us a bit of a like, and if you can subscribe to our channel in your podcasting app. It really goes a long way in helping us get a little bit more reach and, being able to see... have other people listen to us.
For sure.
Meg's made us go viral on TikTok. So if you want to join us over there, we are at 2 Crime Besties. Again, give us some likes and some shares. We'd absolutely love it if you could.
Strong following over there now after one little clip. Don't know what I did there. Someone teach me and I'll do it again.
She's got the hashtags down pat.
I don't know about that.
So next week, we are going to be looking at the Golden State Killer. Go out there, guys, have a look around, even if you just have a bit of a listen to some of the creepy phone calls he makes in anticipation of next week. But we have got a lot to cover there. So, let's get our detective hats on and get going on that one.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, that deep dive, that one. Oh, my God, there's so much there.
So much. Anyway, we look forward to everyone joining us next week, and thank you for joining this week.
Thanks, everyone.
See you later, everyone.
See you next week. Stay curious, Crime Besties.
I'll just put a mark in now.
Yep. Should we clap?
Yep.
What am I doing? Just for you, Peter.